Picture this. February 6th, 1978, Monday morning, Boston, Massachusetts. Your alarm goes off at 7 a.m. The radio crackles. Major winter storm expected today. Stay home if possible. Your dad pours his coffee. It's New England. We've seen worse. He grabs his briefcase. Your mom bundles you up for school. Because snow is normal here. Life goes on. 4 hours later, your dad would be trapped in his office for 3 days. Your mom would be digging through snow taller than your house. And on Route 128, over 2,000 cars would be abandoned in what became the longest parking lot on Earth. This is the blizzard of '78, the storm that buried New England under 27 inches of snow, killed 99 people, and taught America that nature doesn't care about your schedule. Monday morning felt normal. Too normal. Your dad kissed your mom goodbye at 7:30 a.m. Traffic on Route 128 was light. The sky looked gray, but it always looked gray in February. At 9:47 a.m., the first snowflakes fell. Gentle, almost pretty. Office workers pressed their faces to windows and smiled. Looks like we might go home early. By 10:15 a.m., nobody was smiling anymore. The snow didn't fall. It attacked. 4 inches per hour. Driven sideways by winds that would hit 110 miles per hour by nightfall. Your dad looked out his office window and couldn't see the building across the street. The street itself had vanished. He picked up the phone, called your mom. "I'm coming home right now." He never made it. Route 128 became a parking lot in 45 minutes. Then it became something worse. Cars stopped moving. Engines idled. Snow piled up around wheel wells, then doors, then windows. Drivers sat there, watching their gas gauges drop, making impossible calculations. How long can I run the heat? When do I abandon the car and walk? Some chose wrong. At least 10 people died in their cars that day. Carbon monoxide poisoning when snow blocked their exhaust pipes. Quiet, painless, deadly. Your dad was lucky. His car stalled near an exit. He walked 2 miles to a gas station and spent the next 3 days sleeping on the floor with 40 strangers. Your house became a tomb. That's what it felt like when your mom tried the front door at 11 a.m. It wouldn't open. She pushed. Nothing. The snow had drifted against it, 5 feet high in an hour. She ran to the back door. Same thing. Every window showed the same view. White. Just white. Rising. The power went out at 11:30 a.m. The lights died. The heat stopped. And in the silence that followed, you heard something you'd never heard before. Wind that sounded alive. Screaming around the corners of your house. Rattling windows so hard, you thought they'd shatter. Your mom gathered every candle in the house, every flashlight. She piled blankets on the couch. "We're camping," she told you, trying to make it sound fun. But her hands were shaking. By noon, you could see your breath inside. The thermostat read 52 degrees, then 48. Then it stopped working. She layered you in sweaters, 2 pairs of socks, a winter coat, indoors. You huddled on the couch under 4 blankets, and you were still cold. The kind of cold that gets into your bones and stays there. Outside, the snow kept coming. You pressed your face to the window and couldn't see the mailbox, couldn't see the street, couldn't see anything except white chaos and wind that moved the snow like ocean waves. You asked the question every kid asked that day. When will it stop? Your mom didn't know. Nobody did. 3,500 cars abandoned on a single highway. Think about that number. Not nationwide. One highway. Route 128, Massachusetts. By 2 p.m. Monday, it looked like a scene from the apocalypse. Cars everywhere. Some still running, exhaust visible in the whiteout. Others already buried, just humps of snow where vehicles used to be. Drivers made impossible choices. Peter Goslin stayed in his car. He'd run the engine for 20 minutes, then shut it off for 40 to save gas. Every cycle, the snow got higher. By Tuesday morning, his car was completely buried. He was in a snow cave, suffocating slowly in the dark. A neighbor on cross-country skis spotted his antenna sticking up through the snow, dug him out with bare hands. Peter survived, others didn't. One man walked 8 miles from his stalled car. It took him 14 hours. He arrived at his front door, collapsed, and later couldn't remember the last 5 miles. His body had just moved, 1 foot in front of the other, too frozen to think. Schools made fatal mistakes that morning. Some sent kids home early, Buses loaded with children tried to navigate roads that didn't exist anymore. One bus in Quincy got stuck for 18 hours. 40 children, ages 6 to 12, trapped. The driver burned seat cushions to keep them warm. 40 kids huddled together, crying, praying their parents would find them. Other schools kept children there. Gymnasiums became dormitories. Teachers who'd planned to teach math instead spent 3 days keeping kids from panicking as windows rattled and the building creaked under the weight of snow. Hospitals couldn't function. Ambulances couldn't move. If you had a heart attack, you hoped your neighbor knew CPR. If your house caught fire, it burned. Emergency services simply stopped. When breathing became a luxury, you knew this wasn't just a snowstorm. Your mom melted snow on the stove for drinking water. The pipes had frozen solid Monday night. No running water, no flushing toilets, no washing. You melted snow in pots, waited hours for it to become enough water to drink. It tasted metallic, strange, but it was all you had. Food became math. She counted cans in the cupboard, crackers in the box, made calculations. How long can we last? 3 days? 4? The refrigerator was useless without power, but that didn't matter. Everything outside was frozen anyway. She shoved milk bottles into the snowdrift by the back door. Natural refrigeration. The radio saved your sanity, battery-powered, crackling with static. WBZ News Radio 1030 stayed on air for 72 straight hours. DJs became heroes. They coordinated rescues, broadcast pleas, told you that you weren't alone. Anyone with a 4-wheel drive near Arlington Street. Elderly woman needs insulin. Repeat, insulin needed in Arlington. And people responded. Strangers with pickup trucks became volunteer ambulances. Farmers drove tractors into suburbs, pulling people out. Teenagers on snowmobiles delivered medicine to houses buried so deep you couldn't see the roofs. In Marblehead, the ocean froze. Not ice skating frozen, frozen solid. Waves crashed over the seawall and froze mid-crash, creating walls of ice 20 feet high. Houses along the coast were encased in ice. Beautiful, deadly, like living inside a glacier. Your neighbor, Mr. Henderson, appeared at your door Tuesday afternoon. You don't know how he got there. He just materialized. With a shovel and a bag of groceries. Figured you might need help, he said. Didn't wait for an answer, started digging. The day the National Guard rolled tanks through Boston, you knew the world had changed. Tuesday morning. The snow had stopped, but the crisis was just beginning. Governor Michael Dukakis declared a state of emergency, called in the military, actual tanks, armored personnel carriers rumbling through residential streets like it was occupied territory. They delivered bread, they evacuated the sick, they dug out fire hydrants, because if a fire started and the hydrant was buried, entire blocks would burn. A teenager in Quincy spent 2 days digging out every hydrant in his neighborhood, 37 hydrants. His hands bled. He kept digging. Years later, someone asked him why. He said, "What else was I supposed to do?" Doctors became warriors. They strapped on skis and glided through empty streets, making house calls through a ghost town. One surgeon in Salem skied 7 miles to perform an emergency appendectomy. He said later that skiing through a major city with no sound except wind was the most surreal experience of his life. In Newton, a woman went into labor. No ambulance could reach her. National Guard troops smashed through walls of snow, loaded her onto a stretcher, drove her to the hospital in an armored vehicle. She gave birth 4 hours later, named her daughter Grace, because that's what it took to survive. Helicopters buzzed constantly overhead, dropping food, evacuating critical patients. From the air, Massachusetts looked dead, streets gone, houses buried, just endless white and tiny figures moving through it. 99 confirmed dead, but everyone knew the real number was higher. Some bodies weren't found until spring. Elderly people who died from cold but lived alone. Homeless individuals with nobody to report them missing. The official count was bad enough. The truth was probably worse. 16 fishermen never came home. They'd gone out before the storm because bills don't pay themselves. The storm caught them offshore. Only 3 boats returned. 16 families waiting for fathers and husbands who would never come back. A man in Marblehead checked on his elderly neighbor, made sure she was okay, started walking home. They found his body in his own driveway 2 days later. 10 feet from his front door, so close. On Wednesday, when the snow finally stopped, people emerged into a different world. Your mom opened the front door, and snow fell into the house. A wall of it, higher than your dad. She started digging with her hands, then a serving spoon, then anything she could find. Your street looked like the surface of an alien planet. Nothing familiar, just shapes under snow. That mound might be a car. That one might be a mailbox. You walked on top of fences without knowing they were there. The snow was 6 feet deep in places, 15 feet where it had drifted. Schools didn't reopen for 2 weeks. When they did, kids were different, quieter. They'd seen adults scared. They'd seen neighbors helping strangers. They'd learned that the world could break, and people would fix it together. Spring came eventually. It always does. The snow melted, revealing a graveyard of abandoned cars. Over 2,000 vehicles nobody even knew were missing. Found in ditches, median strips, parking lots. Their owners had walked away weeks earlier and never came back. The economic damage was catastrophic. $520 million in 1978 dollars, nearly $2.5 billion today. But something else happened that couldn't be measured in money. Communities changed. People who'd lived next to each other for years without speaking became friends. Because when you're trapped in the dark, sharing candlelight and canned soup, small talk disappears. You talk about real things. You help each other. You remember what matters. The blizzard of '78 changed how America prepares for disasters. Emergency management systems were overhauled. Weather forecasting improved. Coastal flood defenses were built. Driving bans became enforceable by law. The lessons were written in tragedy, but they were learned. Massachusetts created new emergency protocols, mandatory shelters, better communication systems, all because of 3 days when everything failed. But here's what really changed: people. If you lived through it, you don't forget. You remember the silence after the wind stopped. The weird orange glow of the sky reflecting off endless snow. The sound of shovels at 6 a.m. when neighbors came out to dig together without being asked. You remember your mom making dinner by candlelight. Your dad telling stories to keep you from thinking about the cold. The way strangers became heroes. The way your street became a family because there was no other choice. We had less in 1978. No internet to coordinate rescues. No cell phones to call for help. No 24-hour news cycle telling us exactly what to expect. We had battery radios, neighbors with shovels, and the simple understanding that when disaster strikes, you take care of each other. Today we have better forecasts, better equipment, better plans. But have we lost something too? That sense of community that emerges when everything else disappears. The snow of 1978 melted decades ago. Route 128 is clear now. The houses in Marblehead were rebuilt. Life moved on. But its lessons remain. Nature is more powerful than you think. Preparation matters. And when the storm comes, your neighbor with a shovel is worth more than all the technology in the world. If you remember the blizzard of '78, share your story in the comments. Were you one of the 3,500 who abandoned their car? Did you spend 3 days in your office? Do you remember the silence when the wind finally stopped? Share this with someone who remembers. Subscribe to keep these memories alive. Because those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. And New England will never forget the 3 days we disappeared.